Some people hope to use stillness as a mechanism to heal trauma. Not necessarily the physical trauma, but neurological trauma. I don't really call it emotional trauma because trauma actually, due to neuroplasticity, alters our central nervous system and not for the better. But some folks have been told that if they just stop thinking, they'll do better. One of my teachers explained that forcing your brain not to move is like a mouse fleeing from a cat into his mouse hole or through his mouse hole. The cat ain't going nowhere. And the cat ain't going nowhere. He's parking it in front of that mouse hole. And the moment that little rodent puts his head out, it's curtains for him. Similarly, if there was a way, a healthy and sustainable way to push pause on our mental movement, would that really help? Or would the trauma still be there, waiting for us to release our fingers from the metaphoric pause button of our mind? What if squelching thought was not mindfulness? What if it was not meditation? What if it was just a symptom of mental rigidity, a symptom of our controlling tendencies run amok? If that's the case, then even with the best of intentions, all we'll do is exacerbate. We will cause the bottom of our brain to light up. It's already triggered by the trauma, and we'll just make the trauma worse. We will just exacerbate it. We will just crank it up to 11, and nobody wants that. This is important. Perhaps you should write it down. Movement is natural. Doctors will tell you, especially to their aging patients, move it or lose it. Once had a barber tell me to shake a tail feather. We have evolved to move. We have evolved to move physically. We have evolved to move mentally. We've evolved to perceive. We've evolved to see and hear and feel and taste and smell and the like. Mentally, we have evolved to emote, intend, reason, recall, imagine, and confabulate. We have evolved to move. And that is natural. If there is a sustainable way of healing trauma, if there is a sustainable way of treating trauma, it too must be natural. What then is trauma? We can think of our hippocampus as like a well-dressed but stern doorman holding a clipboard and standing behind the velvet rope, telling schlubs like me, no sir, not dressed like that, you ain't coming in my club. Only instead of addressing schlubs like me, he's addressing experienced, dynamic, and tumultuous. And he's saying to the experience, I will not let you in to long-term memory. What is trauma? A tumultuous experience from the past that is not being treated by our brain as a long-term memory. And I got a question for you. If we have a tumultuous experience and it's not being treated by the brain as a long-term memory, what's it being treated as? Perception. Your brain confuses it with perception. And I don't care how amazing your diet is, how amazing your sleep hygiene is, how well you work out, what your positive mental attitude is. You cannot will that away. And it's not your fault. It is a dysfunction of our hippocampus. It's not your fault. If you are haunted by traumas of the past, authority figures, teachers, parents, step-parents, principals, bosses, bullies, criminals, and the like, it is not your fault. And it most certainly is not an indictment against you. Robin Williams said something, I'm going to paraphrase it horribly. He said, everybody is fighting their own war. Be kind. Someone cannot just self-talk themselves out of PTSD. But if they're persistent, they can self-talk themselves into the symptoms of depression, because self-talk is exhausting to your prefrontal cortex. This bit over here. Why is it exhausting? Because our prefrontal cortex did not evolve to browbeat our underbrain. It evolved to do math. It evolved to do physics. It evolved to do feng shui. It did not evolve to argue with the bits and pieces of other parts of the brain. So I think it's safe to say that none of us wants to present with the symptoms of depression, so let's not exhaust our prefrontal cortex. And I dare say most of us with trauma don't enjoy trauma and would like to process trauma. Might I flippantly suggest walking your blues away? Dr. Tom Hartman, PhD, did a lovely job in this book, which you can find, as you can Google, did a lovely job with this book. When we just go for a normal walk, arms swinging, in counterbalance to our legs, you swing your right leg forward, you swing your right arm back. Just like normal. We all know how to walk. Most of us who are 3 years old and older know how to walk. Just walk. Now, if you're really going through it, I don't recommend taking a nature walk. You'll get lost. You won't look where you're going. You might be hit by a car or fall off a cliff, which would only give you more trauma. So when you're going through it, I recommend walking around your block, because you have to really work hard to get lost on your own block. And after a while, your friends will know, your neighbors will know, oh, that's George. He has a funny facial expression. He's working through some shit. Yay, George, we're behind you. So, the neuroscience of the type of walking meditation we're going to explore here basically creates a bilateral stimulation, because we're walking with our right leg, then we're walking with our left, and we're swinging our arms and counterbalance, and that's alternately stimulating different parts of our brain. So the right side and the left side are being stimulated asymmetrically, which is ideal. It's like getting a good massage. Only instead of massaging our shoulders, we're basically massaging our hippocampus. We're slipping the doorman a C note and telling him to let that trauma on in. Now let's take a deeper look. So we're not going to do breath control while we're doing walking meditation. We're not going to take little teeny slow motion mincing steps like that's taught at some monasteries. We're going to walk naturally. In Crocodile Dundee in the late 80s, they told us that The protagonist, after experiencing the trauma of divorce, went on a walkabout. And by the time he was done, he felt right as rain. In the early 90s, we saw, Forrest Gump. And when he woke up to see that the love of his life had left him, he went for a very fast walk we call a run. The same basic idea. Asymmetric stimulation of the central nervous system acts as a lubricant that helps us to promise life's work. But what should we do with our minds? Here's the simplest thing. While walking briskly, during your inhalation, silently and mentally recite, "Notice this." During your exhalation, silently and mentally recite, "Relaxing." It's just that simple. Oopsie. Notice this. We're just noticing. We're not labeling. We're not narrating. We're not arguing. The great Dzogchen teacher, Lama Rinpoche, Guru Rinpoche, taught, whether you like it or not, notice it. Which is kind of stern. It reminds me of a child telling their parents, reminds me of a parent telling the child to eat your vegetables. What I would like to do right now, what I think would be dandy, is if all of us together as a team chanted the Sunday evening excerpt of Song of Enlightenment by Yongjie Xuan Jue, translated from the Chinese into English by Red Pine, adapted and amplified by yours truly. Allow me to remind you that if at any point during this evening's live stream you have a specific question about Buddhist chanting, Buddhist meditation, Buddhist philosophy, or their application, simply type your question in great detail in the chat window. If you're using a laptop or a desktop, that chat window will be on the right. And if you're using your smartphone, that chat window will be down below. The unsurpassing of dharmas, realized by countless Buddhas. This wish-fulfilling jewel I have revealed. May all who accept it do the same. Let us not find fault with the ease and simplicity of noticing and releasing, for it is a mistake to confuse the arduous and difficult with that which is truly effective. Together. Look around, there is not a thing. There are not any people, there are not any Buddhas. All the worlds in the universe are like bubbles in the sea. All the sages and worthies are like mere lightning. There is nothing that we could perceive, emote, intend, reason, recall, or imagine that we could not release. It is as if it was as non-graspable as a vast empty void. Even if an iron skull rolled across my skull, the perfect light of samadhi wisdom would still shine. The practice and the mastery of mindfulness and meditation in harmony with inhalation and exhalation is something that can be practiced anytime, anywhere. Together, Though the sun turn cold and the moon turn warm, not even an army of demons can destroy the truth. When an elephant pulls a cart up a mountain, has anyone seen a mantis block its way? Nothing. Nothing, no how, can impede the efficacy of awareness and release, vulnerable, passive, visceral, and random. Together. Elephants do not follow rabbit trails. Enlightenment is not confined by minor rules. Do not criticize the sky when you are looking at it through a reed. If you still do not understand, this is for you. Contrary to patriarchy's rigid, fearful, controlling, elitist, competitive, and cruel worldview, Karma Jigme taught that the essence of morality is merely non-violence. Through the lens of the Buddha's Eightfold Path, the essence of morality is kind, communication, conduct, and commerce. If this idea seems foreign, then reread the text until it feels familiar and intuitive. I look forward to meditating with you after less than a minute of housekeeping. This is Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. I've spent more than half my life studying, practicing, and then reverse engineering all the teachings, practices, and techniques of each sect of Buddhism so that I could play the Luke Skywalker to your Rey and help you to quickly and easily become the person that your dog already thinks you are. Or perhaps you're a BB-8. Welcome to Meditate Like a Jedi, which is made possible due to the generosity of viewers just like you. If you want to help out, there's a link in my channel bio. Let us chant or perform the recitations of empathetic bodhicitta and enthusiastic refuge. We shall begin with a more literal approach, implementing the triplet chant together. May I take two. May I liberate all beings from the tyranny of hating, craving, and clinging, by relying on thee, Buddha's example, instructions, and students. By the way, these three things, Buddha's example, instructions, and students, are so effective at helping us to become helpers of others that they've earned the nickname of being the three wish-fulfilling jewels. Now let us chant the more concise and more figurative version using the the bookend melody. Together. May I liberate all beings by relying on the three jewels. May I liberate all beings by relying on the three jewels. May I liberate all beings by relying on the three jewels. At last, let us review the instructions of mindfulness and meditation, which are known by many names. traditions, including Zen, Proto-Zen, Shan, Jnana, Mahamudra, Mahasati, Ati-yoga, Dzogchen, and Trekcho. Despite the fanciness of these terms, it's actually quite simple. You see, every time we inhale, whether we know it or not, we access our sympathetic nervous system, which has not evolved for active concentration, but instead has evolved to simply perceive, and to do so vulnerably, passively, viscerally, and randomly. Every time we inhale, we could passively explore what's going on, what we're noticing. We could silently and mentally recite, perceiving this very turbulent play of mind. We've been told by well-meaning people that a monkey mind is a bad thing. No, it's not. Our minds have evolved to play. What are some of the antics of mind? Well, as I mentioned during the lesson, mind can see, hear, feel, taste, smell, and the like. Mind can emote, intend, reason, recall, imagine, and confabulate. Consider, if you will, this bit of Tibetan iconography depicting a blue man and a white woman sporting in tantric union. The abandon, oops, I tapped the mic. The abandon, which with this cloud-colored woman sports in tantric union, reminds us very much of the play of mind. Now, every time we exhale, whether we know it or not, we are involuntarily accessing our parasympathetic nervous system, which is wired for both physical relaxation as well as mental release. Therefore, every time we exhale, if we wanted to, we could silently and mentally recite the 12-syllable phrase, relaxing into mind's non-graspable nature. Now, it's not our job to blindly believe that mind is non-graspable. It's not our job to prove that mind is literally non-graspable. It is our job to pretend that non-graspability is not literal, but figurative. And it's simply a description of how it feels as we relax into our exhalation. Simply a way of saying that as we relax into our exhalation, whatever we notice during our inhalation can now feel as if it was as non-graspable as a vast empty void. And so, as we exhale once again, we could silently and mentally recite, relaxing into mind's non-graspable nature. And this is symbolized by the sky-colored man sitting calmly and stably in tantric union, just relaxing into the present moment as his partner sports with wild abandon. The cloud, the white fluffy cumulus cloud floating across the blue azure sky, or a couple sitting in Yab Yum, can be wonderful symbols of perceiving the very turbulent play of mind and then relaxing into mind's non-graspable nature. Together as a team. Oh yes, by the way, I'm glad you survived. Welcome aboard, Brock. I am delighted you survived the travails of moving. Moving sucks, usually. Together as a team, let us meditate as transformatively as Rey on Ahch-To under the guidance of Luke Skywalker. Let us switch gears from the 12-syllable exercise to the 3-syllable exercise. During our inhalation, we could silently and mentally recite, "Notice this." During our exhalation, we could silently and mentally recite, "Relaxing." Our job is not to select what comes up, but to notice it vulnerably, passively, viscerally, and randomly. In the words of Padmasambhava, notice it whether you like it or not. If you've just joined, welcome aboard. Now let us switch gears from the three-syllable exercise to the king of exercises, or the queen. This, the demonstrative pronoun, and ease, the one-syllable verb which functions as a synonym for relax. I check for questions approximately once every 8 or 9 minutes. Welcome to the live stream, or the group practice, I should say. If at any point you have a specific question about Buddhist meditation, Buddhist philosophy, or how to apply them, simply type the question in great detail in the chat window. I typically check for questions about once every 8 or 9 minutes. The easiest way to practice mindfulness is to silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this during each inhalation. And the most efficient way to practice meditation is to silently and mentally recite the one-syllable verb ease during each exhalation. Let's seal this evening's meditation with a bit of the old chanting, beginning with kind ethics and concluding with the four immeasurables. Together. May all beings practice of kind communication, conduct, and calmness for spontaneous and uncontrived. May everyone be free from misery. May everyone be happy. May no one be separated from the happiness. May everyone have balance from the tyranny of hating, craving, and clinging freed. If you feel that I have earned it, you can give this live stream a thumbs up. Oh, wrong button. I should probably click this one. Or you can even help support this channel on Patreon. In approximately 11 or so hours, I would very much like to return to lead tomorrow's morning meditation class and group practice. And if you are as geeky as me, this is the way.